This is A to Z, episode 116.
Today's guest is Susan Shine Kilcrease, curator of the Ice House Museum in Silsbee, Texas.
It's like they're trying to be too meta.
We're gonna make them an offer they can't refuse.
Much better.
Yeah. You can buy you a drink. You can well, I mean, he did pick out somebody we know.
Will you sidestep the question? That technology does not exist. Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Aaron, here with my co-host Zach.
Hi.
Welcome to A to Z Podcast, where we sit down with the fine folks that make Southeast Texas a better place to live.
So much better. And if you're new to the show, thanks for checking this out. You can find us basically anywhere. This isn't the only spot. We have YouTube, we have Spotify, we have social media sites too. We have Facebook, Instagrams, Twitter that
All
we
the
kind of
stuff,
use,
yeah.
but nobody uses Twitter around here. But we also have a phone number. That's the most fun thing that we are on, is 409-206-2971. That's 409-206-2971. If you call us, leave a voicemail, or we love text.
Yeah,
You
shoot
can
us
send
text,
photos,
yeah.
videos, anything that you're up to or anything that you want to promote.
It is the
even.
most direct way to talk to us.
We'll give you a shout out if you send us a text. Anyway, we're going to be talking to Susan today. Man, she is a badass.
She's awesome. I had no idea what we were going to be talking about in this episode. You kind of brought this along, and
I found her on Instagram.
I was
and
along for the
Facebook.
ride. Obviously, Zach and I are both from Silsbee. We're both Silsbee boys.
Silsbee.
And we grew up going to the Ice House Museum when we were in school, and it was kind of a foundational point of learning for us. So we thought it would be a really good thing to get the new curator on and talk about some of the history of Silsbee and some secrets.
And she's doing a lot of cool stuff, and she's trying to, she's really, endless ideas with this woman, and you'll get to see and hear what she's got in the works, and we're going to go ahead and go forward.
Yeah.
Interview.
So I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Susan Shine Kilcrease.
My husband's name, obviously, and it's Scottish.
Scottish? Okay. Very
And
cool.
so Mom Shine is very Irish.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but anyway, he called me. I thought you were him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so he messaged me the other day and said, is September 22nd or something okay for the podcast? And I said, you mean instead of Sunday? Sunday?
We got the scoop.
And so he went, I said, is Zach your partner? And he went, no. And I went, okay, well, yeah, September 22nd is fine. Apparently, I've got two.
Yeah.
So,
Look at you. You're on a media
Yeah.
tour.
oh, listen, I'm just so famous.
It's a media tour. That's
Well,
it.
I guess we can start it like that. It's like the reason that I hit you up is because I don't know if you just recently started there, like within the last
4
year,
months.
4 months. Yeah, and I started because I've been following the Ice House Museum just because that's
Yeah.
we're kind of all about
Yeah.
like local things and museums and stuff, and I started seeing these posts that were so interesting, like and it's not just like, hey, look at this thing. It was like, here's a couple of paragraphs of something that I found out, and I could tell that you, the person that was writing it, was so excited about it and so into it, and it was just really refreshing to see. It was so cool, and so that's kind of the backstory. Is I've been watching what you've been doing with the place, and I love it. I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you. It's kind of funny because I got a little bit of a background in social media because, well, I taught for all those years, and then I've tried. I tell people I've tried to quit teach. I've permanently quit teaching 3 times so far because
That seems like a lot of teachers.
Yeah, third
do
time's a
that.
charm.
Yeah, and so because it just I do everything like that, just wide open, and it just wears me out. And to do the high school choir, and so finally I left teaching again, and I joined my husband's business. Matter of fact, we had an office just a couple of blocks from here.
Oh.
Yeah, and so we don't have it anymore. We it was kind of a sad. We had a son that passed away, and after that we closed that office and just scaled everything down. But during that period, which was like 12 years, I found myself doing graphic design, social media, and all that kind of stuff. So I have the social media background. So I start with the museum closed. I start working the social media. And what I discovered is everybody is nuts about this history stuff.
Oh,
They really
yeah.
are.
Oh,
They
yeah.
really are.
And
Yeah, on Facebook alone, I think I'm probably in 20 history groups. I'm in like Abandoned East Texas. I'm in like the Texas Old Railroad group. You know,
Beaumont then and now. There's a bunch of historical traditions.
there's so many of those groups. Yeah, and it's really Traces of Texas. That's my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one to join. Yeah, Traces of Texas.
You know, and here's the odd thing is I'm really not. I need to start doing that. But see, history has been my passion and my my hobby for my whole life.
Yeah.
Even though my background is the performing arts.
Mm-hmm.
And museums are sort of like that anyway because it's like putting on a show. It really is. And it's about taking information and trying to use art and emotions and things to sell it, to intrigue people, get their attention.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of my background. But I almost tell people I feel like I've been training for this job my whole life. And I'm really good, really excellent at finding really fun, low-paying jobs. I've always been really good at that. But
Yeah. I think we all have that in common. Yeah.
But anyway, so because I've studied so much history, and I've done all these talks for years. I've done talks for people for the DAR and stuff like that, and I was kind of becoming the girl, the Silsbee girl, in terms of history. And then this job opened, and people started approaching me, and I had just retired again from our business, and like 2 months later, they're like, "You got to do this museum." I was like, "No, I don't." And so, well, the rest is history. I mean, here I am.
Yeah.
But right now we have it's really going really well.
Yeah.
Because the COVID thing, there's a couple of things that's forced us to do. Well, like we've had some issues with the flooring in the back. It's a 100-year-old building. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
wonder.
very
The building
old.
itself
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
And so we've had to take everything out, all the artifacts, and put them into in the front. And we've been forced to do an inventory. So during this period of time, the beauty of it is we were able to inventory everything in the building, get it all online,
Yeah.
so that we have this whole thing where you can actually go on the website.
You
and
do
go
like a
over and
virtual
see.
tour.
wow.
Yeah. And so that was a wonderful opportunity. But right now, if you walk in the museum, it's just there's tables everywhere with sheets over them with all
Artifacts.
of our stuff on them. And so we're that's the deal.
Yeah. So this whole thing is kind of giving you a chance. Y'all aren't really open to the public at all. So it's giving you a chance to kind of catch up, but also just present these things in a different way. It seems like a lot of museums they got tripped up, or these kind of into these public entities got tripped up when all this happened because they weren't prepared to move digital, and you came in like at the right time.
Well,
you know?
see, and it's kind of fate, as you would have it, or whatever. But they have a new curator. There's a new board president. Everything is brand new. And then, as I said, because of this complete reliance on social media that we've had to do, we have discovered what people are interested in.
Yeah.
And they are absolutely interested in not just local history, but the relevant social history. Like back when COVID first came out, and that was when we were first starting, I found some stuff in the museum about the Spanish flu. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
2,000 people in the Silsbee area died in the Spanish flu.
There was
Wow.
2,000 people in the Silsbee area?
That's what it says in
Wow.
the documentation. It's
Wow.
hard to believe, but it is in the documentation. And they talked about how people in the community would gather, would make soup, and they would deliver and just leave it at people's homes because it was terrible.
Oh, yeah, like the same time when the Black Plague was, that was the same thing.
Because
Oh my
nobody
gosh.
could work. They had
Yeah.
to stay at home. And
Yeah.
And so what happened then was it was so alike, and I had a photograph of a family posed in in front of their house in masks in 1918, and then there was the same descendants of the same family in front of the same house in masks
in 2020.
in 2020.
Wow, yeah.
And
that's-
so that thing we had over 30,000 people that saw that.
Wow.
And so that told me right away that people were interested not only in history, but to make it pertinent and make it feel like it's matters in their lives today.
Well, well, it's like, because that's the thing. People that love history and understand history, I think that's what draws them into it, because they look for all those correlations in here and now, how people are
Yeah.
pretty much the same, or they haven't changed much. It's just the times would change, and it's like, but to most people, you kind of have to make that connection, and maybe that's where the value in having a museum
Yeah.
is.
Well, that's what makes history alive, too. It's really easy. when you're thinking about it, to think that we're different from the people that came before us. But in good history, I mean, you just know that we're the same. You know what I mean? Hey, how are you?
Absolutely. And
Got a special delivery. Special delivery.
Thank you. Well, there's so many things like that.
Yeah.
Get you a chair.
You know, that are like one of the other things that has been just enormously popular. It's just really surprised me how popular is the thing about the Kirby Mill.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No, that's kind of what caught my attention is like you posted this aerial shot and you kind of drew where some things are.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that there was a canyon,
Yeah.
I was like, I drove down that road, that big dip. What road is that? 418?
Yeah.
I drove down that big dip my entire childhood going to school or going wherever I was going. And I always wondered about that big change in elevation. And then whenever you posted that, I was like, there's no way there was a canyon hidden away back there that
There
we
totally
could've gone and
is.
looked at.
So so where was the mill hidden?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually it's a completely inaccessible. When I
Okay.
say inaccessible, I
Yeah.
mean first of all, it's behind fences and it's owned by some big timber company, and it
Okay.
has been. As a matter of fact, in the last few years, it was even owned by Harvard University of all places.
Really?
Yes, because what happened, I don't get it, but what happened was
That's a divested portfolio there.
I know.
Yeah.
but
Big
I,
ticket, man. It's
I
interesting.
was really kind of disappointed. I wanted to call Harvard and ask them about it, but oh well. But they, so I started trying to find out who owned it, and that has been the journey and the whole community. And that was another thing I've been trying to do, is to get the community involved. So what can we figure out? You know,
Like a
and
collective investigation.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so people were saying, well, that was a hunting lease, and it was owned by this group, and here's the name. Call this person. So I called everybody. Well, and they'd give me another name, and I'd call them. And it took me forever. And finally, someone told me the name of someone, and and of course, with COVID, nobody was answering phones and
Right.
everything.
Nobody's
And
in the office. Yeah.
so I finally got a personal number for somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody. And so I called him, and he said, oh, doggone it. You know, we just sold that property 6 months ago. Said, okay. So, and I even looked up the deed, you know, on the, in the county courthouse and everything, and it said that it was owned by some company in Connecticut that was run out of some company in Chicago, or I don't know. But so finally, he gave me a phone number of a man that supposedly could get that done. So I got in touch with him. He was a really nice guy. They're over in Louisiana, and I've been talking to him for some time. And where we are now is after months of negotiation. He has said they have decided that we can go on the property and investigate, but they're going to come, and they're going to get their lawyers to draw up some big contract so that, you know, a hold harmless, that if someone falls in a pit or something,
by a snake or something.
Yeah.
either that or have or have someone that has access to that area and they're to come out there and help us. But what we've discovered is there's people from even Lamar University. It's sort of a geological, archaeological, this whole kind of a investigation.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's this enormous area out there, and it was. I need to look this up exactly. I've seen it written many different ways, but that was either the largest sawmill in the southeastern United States, or I've heard people say in the United States. Or in Texas, but that was an enormous sawmill out there.
What part of town is?
It's over on the section of town. If you know Silsbee, it's over behind where Pine Plaza is.
Okay, I know exactly. Yeah.
It's out there, sort of behind. There's just some woods, and actually, that canyon runs through there, and that. I don't know
want
if
to see
you.
pictures of that, like an actual walled canyon, if it's even there. Like that would be amazing.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I took videos and put it on there, and
I
it
gotta
is.
see
It's
that.
there's black rocks down in there. It's
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah. That's.
and it. I don't know what it is, but I know
we
that
grew up there. We don't even know.
nobody knew.
We don't even know.
Nobody knew because it's in
Yeah.
this inaccessible area that's owned privately.
Yeah.
And I think there were some hunters and things that knew, but they were being real tight-lipped about it, you know.
Yeah. That's where all the deer hiding in Silsbee.
Yeah.
Not just the deer, but, you know, we've also been talking about the
panthers.
The panthers.
Oh, yeah, the Panthers.
That's
Yeah.
a big one.
Yeah. All the cryptozoologists say they're not real. I know they're real. I know they're there.
Do you know that we had,
Heard them.
when we
'em,
posted,
yeah.
have you really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
long time ago, though. And it might have been privately owned. You never
It's
know.
not-
You never know.
It's
I lived
not-
out in Caney Head, so it's
Yeah,
great.
hey, that's where they are.
Yeah.
I told my sister when we were doing this, I discovered that a lot of these panther, quote unquote, panther sightings were either out there on like the Oldsberger Highway area, or they would be out there near around Massey Lake in that area in Silsbee. And my sister lives in that area, and I told her, and she's always calling up wildlife. She's got deer that she pets and little raccoons that eat peanut butter sandwiches at
Just
her
like
window.
Snow White, yeah.
Yes, yes, I always go, ha, 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 sing at her every time I see her. But anyway, I told her, I said, if you get a big bowl of tuna fish, maybe you can get one. Yeah. But
Kitty.
You set up a trail cam, a big bowl of tuna fish.
I'll tell you what's interesting is all these guys come on, and they are the guys that are supposed to know. These are the Parks and Wildlife people.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. But yet, I have found this guy that's written a book called, Shadow Cats, The Shadow Cats of, I wish I knew that because I could be plugging his book. But it's all over our Facebook page.
Okay.
And so he has done this investigation all over the United States of these quote-unquote panthers. And what he says they are is they are black jaguars that are, natural to this area, came up through Mexico. And so they're really here. So I keep running into these people that have, I had 200 responses of stories of times that they had seen them. One girl had walked beside her on the road and scared her to death.
Oh, wow.
When she was 15 years old, and every time she would move, it would move, and it just terrified her. And another one who looked up, and one was in a tree with a deer above him, and it's just so many stories. And then there was the guy the other day that I talked to that supposedly has killed one because it was killing calves in a dairy farm, and he was hired to kill it. And now we're seeing if we can try to find the pelt.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure you
Or
didn't
even
leave
some
the pelt
teeth
to
or
that.
something,
Yeah.
You can
Well,
identify.
Yeah.
This could be a really big deal because
Yeah.
if we can get the pelt in our exhibit, of our predator exhibit, then I think there's going to be people coming from all over creation because
Well, yeah, because even the idea of the black cats in this area are in cryptozoology. It's in the same vein as when people talk about Bigfoot. That's how much people don't think it's real.
strangely enough, he's
Yeah.
also doing a book on Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But that's another. If he finds Bigfoot, then we'll definitely do an exhibit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So what are your plans with the Kirby mill? Like, what would you hope to be done about
The
it?
Kirby Mill.
The Kirby mill. Yeah.
Honestly, what we're hoping to do is now we're going to have to wait till it cools off some because it's just
Yes.
deadly
It's
hot.
It's rude outside.
Exactly. And so what we want to do is we want to create, I've got this whole list of people that have indicated they want to be a part of it, people that have, that can fly drones, people that are involved with Lamar's geology department, people that just are fascinated with it, woodsmen, people that can deal with that. And we want to go out and do a really well thought out investigation where
Yeah.
we maybe even section off the area and do a walk through it. But since then, I have found another guy that has seen those ruins and sent me pictures of them, and they're enormous. And the thing is he said, I don't know if you saw my post about that, but he sent me some pictures of it, and and he sent me, he went out there and did some drops on Google Earth, some drop
some
some
pin
pins.
marks.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so when we looked at it, that is exactly where those buildings where we had kind of guessed they were going to be.
Yeah.
And he's
What would you hope to find out there? Like, what kind of artifacts do you think you could find? It's been so long.
well, I would love to find a big piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even some blades, something like that.
Yes.
Trying to think of some high carbon steel.
Didn't somebody say they found horseshoes somewhere?
Oh,
I don't
horse-
know.
No, somebody did that in Spindletop. Sorry.
Yeah.
But see, here's the funny thing about it is that for years, Silsbee's founders, in all their wisdom, used that area as a dump.
Oh, wow.
Now,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good and bad because now you've got 100 years of you have some artifacts out there as well.
Yeah.
Bottles, whatever
All kinds
that's
of
out
stuff.
there. And so there's a lot of investigating that can be done in that area, but primarily what I want to do is see what I can find And I'd like to do like a real high-tech exhibit that showed, that talked about Google Earth. I've got a surveyor that is willing to go out there and do the whole satellite positioning thing, and just show exactly what it was and try to identify the individual buildings.
Yeah.
That this building was here. This is what it looked like then, 100 years ago, and this is what it looks like today. And it's just a bunch of concrete columns. 'Cause some of the columns out there are 5 or 6 feet tall, the concrete columns. And then beneath it, you can just see all of this stuff on the ground that is just like lumber and maybe stuff that they dumped. I don't know. But all I know is I've seen the pictures.
So after it wasn't a lumber mill anymore, they would just bring that and they would use it as a dump for things.
That's what I
It's just a
understand.
trash heap kind of. But I mean, that's good for a historian, like if you're looking for things to look at and discover.
Absolutely.
That's you're going to find all kinds of things. It's just probably going to be hard to find the things from 1912 because you're going to have to dig through a lot of stuff from 1960 and 70 and 80 if they were dumping it at that time. And
That's right.
you got to go through decades of trash to find what you're looking for.
I'll tell you what I would love to do, and I don't know if this is even possible, but I would love if they could figure out some way to create some sort of historic area of that where the state would take it, and with the canyon and everything out there, it would make a wonderful place
Make
for
a park.
bike trails, hiking trails.
It'd be hard to get that land's important to somebody, so and the price just went up.
Okay. Well, here's the deal about it, though, is the area around the old mill is just like if you go to downtown Silsbee or you go to the old Woodrow area of Silsbee, which was some of the original homes of Silsbee 100 years ago. What you noticed is when John Henry Kirby came through, they just clear cut all the timber, and it was completely like plains. If you look at the old pictures of the Kirby mill, there's no trees.
There's no trees, really.
Yes. And so when they came back, in the oldest pictures of downtown Silsbee, there's no trees. Looks like Kansas.
Yeah.
So the founders went back and replanted some hardwood trees, like mostly sycamore trees. And there's an enormous sycamore tree right outside the Ice House Museum. And, of course, the Ice House was built in the 1920s. So that's about when all this was going on. But when you get out there around the mill, there are no pine trees out there. Those woods out there look exactly like the woods around downtown and around Woodrow that they were
Deciduous.
replanted.
Yeah, they're deciduous. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
And a lot of there's yard trees and things that were planted as though it was this huge. It wasn't just a mill that employed 300 people, which it did, but that
was the town's economy.
Well, the commissary, the doctor's office, there were houses out there. There were giant mechanical buildings where they worked on the big steam locomotives out there. So it was a huge operation out there. So
I mean, the mill was so big, it almost was its own town in a way. Could have become its own town, yeah.
Yeah. They kind of expected that to happen.
They have the company store. Was that happening?
They
out there?
did,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of people that own their, had their soul owned by the company store, like the old song goes. But and there's some sad stories in that, and there's along with all of that, great wealth came some corruption,
Oh yeah.
and so there's a lot of stories about them swooping in and taking land that really didn't belong to them.
Yeah.
And so that just was, and I'm not even.
That's about like Southeast Texas.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a lot of it's really hard to find information about a lot of things in this area because it has changed so rapidly. And I mean, he's done some videos on the Jefferson Theater and all this. And I remember seeing a photo a long time ago that I've been trying to find for years, but it was a barbershop in Saratoga, Texas, and we all know how big Saratoga is now, right? It's like, if you count the animals, there's like 60 people there. You know what I mean? But at the time of the oil boom, which was in the early 1910s after Boomtown, they had the picture was a 50-person or 50-chair barbershop. And just like I think about that sometimes about like how many people
50 chairs.
A 50-chair barbershop in Saratoga, and that's how booming the oil. Like there was thousands of oil field workers in the fields, and it's like just thinking about the timber area in Silsbee and all the remnants. It's weird. It's really weird that there's not a lot of evidence about it.
I know it is, and I think part of it was I've thought about that a lot actually, because there was quite a bit of wealth in the beginning. There was the original investors that came
It was
from
a
the East Coast.
consolidated wealth, but yeah.
And John Henry Kirby. And originally, some of the buildings that were built that are no longer there, like the original Roundhouse, Silsbee was the major hub
Like
of
the
everything.
train, the rotator.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
I think you posted. Yeah, I saw a picture that you posted
I
about
did. That thing was huge.
that. Where was that?
Well, it's in the area where the train yard still is,
They just built over it. Yeah.
or tore it down. And there also were hotels. That's the other thing that's fascinating about it, is that there were hotels everywhere. As a matter of fact,
Because of the trains, I imagine.
because
yeah.
it's the railroad workers coming in
Yeah.
and needing somewhere to sleep. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, my husband and I purchased a 1922 house near the Ice House Museum and have been restoring it. And in the backyard, there is what they call a railroad crib. It's a 3-room little 1920s little house that they rented to railroad workers, and it still looks like 1920 in it. So the whole area.
That's a nice find. That's really cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. But there were hotels everywhere. There was a hotel directly across the street on both corners of the Ice House Museum. 2 hotels. And,
Where the little memorial is right now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
and also where the big trees are across Ernest Avenue, which is the one that is. You know which one that is?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's but actually, there's some big, beautiful trees that are still there, and that was the city hotel. There was a million hotels around the area, from all the.
It makes sense because there's a lot of seemingly empty space around there too. You know, where you can just kind of look and tell that there used to be things there, because it makes no sense why there wouldn't be. Like when you're looking around the feed store by the railroad tracks, and you look over to the right, and it's just big empty swaths. Yeah.
Exactly. And what is amazing to me is that we actually had a Harvey house. And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of Silsbee's Harvey house. Are you familiar with Harvey houses?
Mm-mm.
There was a man through, and I wish I could say his whole name now, but his last name obviously was Harvey. And he built these elegant hotels in all of these railroad towns all over, all of the United States.
Like a chain of them. Yeah.
Yes. And they had, there's even a musical out there called The Harvey Girls. And it was that the Harvey Girls were the elegant ladies that they had working in here. They wanted,
Wait, were these bordello, like little boarding home kind of things?
No. This is very proper.
It's high class.
That was the whole point.
Pinkies up.
Is that they wanted these ladies to be
Elegant.
ladies that were treating them, and they had a little uniform. Well, Silsbee had an enormous Harvey house, a 3-story one that was built in 1906, and it was right there in basically the library parking lot area of downtown Silsbee.
That used to be a Harvey house standing there.
There was a Harvey house right there,
3 stories.
and yes, with wings.
It's probably the tallest building in Silsbee.
It was huge. It was,
Yeah.
in terms of Harvey houses, it was huge.
Yeah.
It's the same height as the pines, really. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
It was very big, and it was very. I mean, I can show you a picture, but it looks like almost something that was in Yellowstone or something. It's this great big hotel, and they had a basement and had a billiards room in it.
A basement
They
in
totally
Silsbee?
did. They did.
I mean, it's the higher elevation of anywhere else.
Yeah,
around
that's
here.
true. Yeah, it was.
I don't remember this, but some people that are older than I am remember actually that used to. I do remember there was a park there instead of the library parking lot, but there used to be the basement was there, and people could get down in it and play in it as kids. I've heard that before.
Okay, yeah.
But here's the interesting thing about the Harvey house is it was built and it was very elegant, is that it burned down. There's just within a few months of it being completed.
Oh, wow.
And we actually have pictures of it burning down. And I've heard people say it burned down in 1906. It was built in 1906. And then I've heard people that it was burned down in February of 1907.
Yeah.
But it's weird. There was a lot of things that burned down suspiciously back in those days.
Well, wiring probably wasn't very safe. Have you ever, when did you say your house was built?
1922.
Has the wiring been updated?
Oh,
Like
yes.
Cloth,
Okay.
Cloth wiring. is
Oh,
what they
yes.
call it.
Knob and
lived-
tube.
I've lived in an old house, and I've looked inside the wall that's like shiplap with no insulation, and it's exposed wire that are run taut between
with little ceramic runners.
ceramic,
Yes.
and it's run through the wall like that, and houses used to burn down all the time.
Oh, yes. But
yeah,
this
before
was,
vulcanized rubbering was a thing on the outside of wires, it was just like, Good luck. Good luck.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's just that we had, also in somewhere around that time, maybe 1902 or 3, the Kirby Mill burned down.
Oh, yeah.
And so then a few years later, then the Harvey House burned down. And so there's been, and Milltowns did just burn down all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, the sawdust, start collecting in
like
there, and hit a flashpoint. And...
As a matter of fact, I talked to you about my great-great-grandfather that was a doctor that worked in sawmill towns. And he would, when one would burn down, he would just move to the next one.
Really? Wow.
And so
bad, huh?
It really,
Just a
it truly
nomad
was.
doctor. Yeah.
And because they would, there was so much, you're right, so much sawdust. So
And
much,
also coal, too. Coal and coke just laying
Yes.
around because you have to power all the steam equipment to cut all the logs and everything. So, yeah.
well, and then you've got little things like lanterns, kerosene lanterns, and
and bare wires in your wall.
yes, and if you had, they probably didn't even have bare wires, but they had wood burning stoves that would they would sometimes build a kitchen separate from the house, so when the kitchen burned down, it wouldn't burn. That is the truth.
Yeah.
It is the absolute truth.
Just put it out. Put the kitchen outside.
It's funny growing up in Silsbee because it's such a wood town, and just some of the experiences we have there are so different. At my dad's house, there's a wood burning stove, and we would go to the pallet mill headed towards Evadale and just get scraps for the wood. It was like, all right, let's go get the truck and go get the scraps of wood, and you just get sycamore blocks and just all odds and ends and pieces for free.
We'll take a little break and then we'll regroup and get back to it. Sound good? Mm-hmm. All right.
Hey, this is Julia with Wake Up Beaumont Podcast. You are listening to the A to Z Podcast. A to Z Podcast Studios are funded in part by patrons on Patreon. If you would like to become a patron, visit patreon.com/A2ZBMT.
All right, guys. Well, it's the middle of the episode. You know what that means. It is time for us to highlight some things going on in your area.
Yep.
And we are pleased to announce that we have our own event that we would like to promote here.
Very true.
We have a Village Creek cleanup day that we're going to be doing on October 3rd. Mm-hmm. That's a Saturday. It is going to be at the Lumberton Bridge location, the boat ramp out there.
That's right.
You guys all know where it is. It's your favorite swimming hole. Bring your trunks and your trash bags. Help us clean up one of the jewels of our area. It's gonna be fun. We're not gonna work you to death. It's gonna be very.
We're just gonna walk up and down. We're gonna clean up under the bridge, and then we're gonna walk down the trail, go to the main
and like maybe
sandbar,
jump in the water.
Jump in a little bit.
So make sure you bring your bathing suit, your trunks. Make sure you bring a trash bag, and just help us do our part. It's gonna be really fun, you guys.
Yeah, and then that's gonna be a family-friendly event because afterwards we're gonna get some beers at the after party, which is gonna be at Elizabeth P. Fontenot's Entwined at the Art Studio Inc. It's gonna open at noon that day on October 3rd on the Saturday, and they're going to be open until I think about 5 p.m. So you could rush in there, and they're going to have refreshments and everything, and it'd be a good way to support a local artist and go check that out.
Yeah.
And get a free beer for your whole day of cleaning up a jewel of our area.
Right.
Like it's just a good all around.
That's a good day, man.
Uplifting day.
That's a good day.
And if you want to uplift us and support something in your community, then hit us up and advertise with us.
That's right.
We got a very affordable packages. We can send you a setup, and you can,
We have a very engaged audience that is ready to spend money on whatever you ask them to. Trust us.
Very supportive.
They have shown us that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this episode with Susan Shine Kilcrease.
I've got a bunch of volunteers that are working with me, a number of them, and so they're there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And also we have people that will stop in, and they keep bringing us these wonderful things.
Well, that's really that's a testament to you. Like you said, you had this you kind of already had a knowledge of social media and how to work it, and just you've really gotten people excited. Your posts have really managed to get people excited about not just what's going on there, but just history in general, especially at a time that everybody's bored in their houses.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And they're
yeah.
hating that they're stuck in Silsbee, living in Silsbee or whatever. And then
Also,
they see
people are
something
taking
really
stock of what they have in their house, too.
Yeah, and
people
then
are finding
it's like,
old...
oh wait, this is really cool stuff, and like I didn't know this existed. Let me dig deeper.
I have this 150-year-old plow in my yard that I've always just never really worried about. And here you go.
The millstone that somebody brought me the other day just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I posted it. I don't know if you saw it, but it's only about this big. It's really not like a millstone like you see, but it looks like a millstone, and they found it in the Kirby mill site. And so we have been just like racking our brains to figure out what it is, but he said his daddy found it out there hunting 1,000,000 years ago or something, and he left it, and the guy went and dug it up out of somewhere and brought it to me. And then people are always bringing stuff. Like I posted the thing about the old 1952 phone book,
Yeah.
where I literally photographed every page of that phone book, cover to cover, and put it in there.
What did a phone book look like in the 50s? Because that was still the party lines, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can, well, they're small. They're about the size of like a comic book.
Yeah.
And so, as a matter of fact, I'm trying to find comic book protecting material to put them in, because once they come to us.
I have lots
right
of
down
those
the
if
street.
Do
want,
you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And
Comic
actually
stand.
right there, yeah.
Right down this road.
Well, I'm going to have to get that information, because we put everything in acid free, and then it goes to white gloves only then. But I posted that, and I had like 7,000 people that saw that and went through and said, oh, look, here's Mama and, Aunt Cravey or whatever. And they tagged all these people, and it just went all over creation. So then a lady contacted me and said that she had 2 more, and she was going to mail them to me. And so I now have the 1948 and the I believe it was 53. It was a slightly different one. So I have 3 of these old Silsbee phone books, and we've got to figure out how to preserve them so that they can be seen, that people can go in and flip through them, because that it's relevant to them. That
Have you started reaching out to any of the other museums around here? Because they're usually pretty down to help, from the people I've met anyway.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe they might be snobbish. I don't know.
Some. I have some. Part of what I have a volunteer that is just an unbelievable, marvelous asset to us, and her name is Debbie Brown, and she has had an unfortunate episode in her life, and that her husband has been extremely ill, and so she has had to retire these last few years to care for him full time. Well, she was not only a teacher, but she was a museum curator, and she is a licensed preservationist.
Oh, wow.
And so she is grabbed onto this like a lifeline to her, to just help her kind of have things to think about and to do and to work on. And so she is the person that's been really working on preservation and all of those things. And so she has done some reach out, because she was formerly the curator of the John J. French Museum, as well as the Kirby Hill House. And so when she can come, she comes, and she's a tremendous help to me. But she's the person that has been contacting people she knows in other museums, so that we're going to partner with everybody we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you might as well. I mean, it should be a community that helps each other, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like we're starting, because of all of this, we don't know nobody knows what the future's going to look like post-COVID, and
post-hurricanes.
Yes. Oh gosh, please. But anyway, so we're talking about doing a lot more about education, because all of our volunteers, the vast majority of us are licensed educators, myself included. And so we're talking about doing some work for people, some online lessons, some history lessons, some really enrichment sorts of things that people can do.
Kind of using the library as a secondary point of education.
The museum?
Yeah.
Yes. I do the same thing. I call it the library.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like the area of town, and I've got all the buildings in my head.
Right.
So yeah.
Well,
I'll call it the Pines next. Just watch.
Well, there's yes, we're trying to help provide resources, and just feel like we're trying to figure out what the needs of the people are. What do people want from a museum right now? And we're figuring that out. We're figuring that out. First of all, it's the history.
Yeah.
But we're going to try to provide, we're going to open as soon as we can.
You guys have used it for all kinds of things in the past. There's been art showings there.
Yes, and we will continue to.
Yeah, amateur, professional art showings.
Yes.
You've held events there.
Yes.
Like the arm wrestling championships.
Yes,
you know?
it's going to happen again.
It's going to happen again. That's what
I said that you were coming on, and that was the first thing he asked. Oh, she's going to talk about the arm wrestling championship?
Yeah, they have to wear gloves. No, I'm kidding.
It's COVID. Yeah, you gotta work. Yeah.
I don't know. We definitely are going to do it, but everything is, we're bound by the laws from the state.
Absolutely.
And some museums are finally just beginning to reopen, and they take your temperature at the door. They limit the number of people that you come in, and there's also things that you like. There can't be anything that you touch.
Yeah.
You just have to kind of walk and stand.
That's kind of helpful
and not
anyway.
breathe.
In a museum, you don't touch a lot of stuff anyway.
You do, but there are some things I would love for people to be able to touch.
Yeah.
Like the old wagon that we've got in there. That we brought in that 1902 Studebaker freight wagon that's in there, and
That was a gift. Where'd you get that?
it came from. It was donated to us by a Silsbee graduate who wants to remain not anonymous.
Somebody graduated. Somebody just had a 1902 Studebaker wagon.
No, we found it. Actually, what happened was this benefactor made a contribution to the museum.
Oh, it allowed y'all to,
And so I put a proposal together because one of the things that we did not do at the Ice House Museum was we didn't talk very much about the ice, about manufacturing of ice. And so I said we need to fix that.
Yeah.
And so I proposed that we build this. When you first walk in the door, it looks like the side of a 1920s house with windows. The windows came out of my house, actually, so they are 1920s. And so, and then we had a wagon, get a wagon and outfit it so that it looks like it is an ice wagon.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And make artificial.
So you got a period wagon and...
Yeah. And see, my great-grandfather...
You got the ammonium tanks and everything set up?
No, you wouldn't put that on the wagon now.
Okay, yeah.
what?
But...
That's how they made ice.
With ammonia?
Yes, they absolutely did.
Yes, yeah. It was
See,
very...
I went there as a
very
little
dangerous.
kid whenever they did talk about ice a little bit more.
Ice house workers died when they were like 35.
Wow.
It was very dangerous.
Gotta have ice though, dog.
Yeah.
Honestly, the main, when you first come into the Ice House Museum, there's this big gallery area, and the main part of that was a pit that was 4 feet deep, and it was filled with salt water with brine, and it also had ammonia that was piped through it. And this is, an extremely important thing in the 20s, because without refrigeration, then this was something that was necessary, absolutely necessary to preserve and keep food safe and things like that. So with that in mind, and the fact that I had a great-grandfather that actually drove an ice wagon from that ice house.
Oh, wow.
Back in probably the 30s and 40s. And my father, when he was a little boy, used to help him. And he always talked about, of course, it was terrible. He had to carry a cold biscuit under his arm and run uphill the whole way. And,
Yeah.
But he literally, I understood that he wouldn't stop the wagon, that my dad would get the ice block, which were heavy, take it to the
really
house,
heavy.
and my great-grandfather would not even stop the wagon. And then my dad would have to chase the wagon and catch it and get the ice and run.
Well, you don't want the ice to melt, you gotta get it out of there.
Well, it didn't melt on his watch. But anyway, so I've heard about this my whole life. And I actually have a couple of aunts that actually remember the ice wagon. I guess he drove maybe into the 40s or even the 50s. I need to find that out. So with that in my mind, I suggested that we'd have an old house. When you walk in, you see the side of an old 1920s house, and that there's an ice wagon parked in front of it as though it has stopped to deliver ice.
Okay, yeah.
And then when you walk around the corner, we have recreated a really wonderful 1920s kitchen.
So you got the ice box in
We
there.
have the ice box. We have the wood-burning stove.
Okay.
We have the baking center.
That's the entrance, so that leads you into the rest.
It leads you. Well, it actually is just around the corner. It leads you to a ramp that goes upstairs to the upper galleries. But it is.
That's really cool. I like that. Yeah.
And then we did the black and white checked floor and the whole thing. It very much looks like a 1920s kitchen, and so we can show people how very important it was to how important this building was to the history. And then at the back dock, there was the front dock. You would pick up either with cars or even with horses and wagons and things. you would pick the ice up on the front dock. But the back dock, the train tracks went right to it. There was a spur that went right to it, and they would load the cars full of ice and sell it to other places and ship it off. And so this was a very big production, a very important part.
They would use blocks of ice also to transport produce on trains too. I think throw a couple of those, and like you have a freight with potatoes. Throw some of those in there.
Yeah,
that was like the first refrigeration transportation.
So like that building's not like a huge building. I mean, but it's just how it's not such a huge building, but they cranked out so much ice and like provided. I mean, there probably weren't that many more ice houses around that area.
Well, there were some, but there were some. But whatever the case is, I just know that this ice house made a great amount of ice.
Yeah.
And we actually have one of the cans. They made 300 pounds of ice, and they were about 5 feet tall and probably a foot deep and maybe 3 feet wide. And so with the cans would be dropped down into the water, and then it would take 48 hours to freeze the ice. And then and if you come in the ice house, I can show you all the places on the ceiling where they lifted these big, 300-pound bricks of ice, and then they would dip them into some tepid water so that it would loosen it. And then they could dump them out, and they would take them into the back. And the walls are very thick in the back and insulated.
So it's like the ice cube trays at your house, but like vertical?
Yes, very heavy, very big. And so they would make just hundreds of these at a time in this pit that was in the main part of the gallery. Now we have filled that pit in; it is a level, but you can still see on the walls all of the big beams and the things that they used to lift it. Yes.
Yeah.
And so then once they took it in the back, they would cut it up into sizes and marketable sizes, and there's also we also have had a section in the back that was like a frozen section or something. In 1925, that's interesting. But we're talking about taking a wall out in there. And so when we started taking this wall out, we just thought someone had put a closet in there, and it was going to be just 2x4s. And we got in there, and it was original wall with original insulation from 1925. And so now we're not going to take it down. No. We're going to sort of show the cross section, the inside of this is what the insulation looked like back in this period of time. Yeah. And they would I've been told they would take hunting season, they would hang the deer in there.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So so you could keep you could keep things there. You could pay them to keep things there if you wanted to.
Yes, or you could go get a cold watermelon at the ice house, I was told, and also people always sort of tell me, or under the breath, that you could also get cold beer in there.
Dude, think of how much of a
you gotta have like the secret code word or something.
How brutal it must have been to not even have air conditioning in those times. But then like that block of ice would be a godsend at some points. Even just to keep preservation of food is one thing, but just to be able to have a cool something.
Cool slice of watermelon.
Cool slice of watermelon. Yeah. In the middle
cold
of the
beer.
1900s.
Imagine drinking 85-degree beer, man.
You gotta ride a horse everywhere. Like come on. Get a cold beer.
Well, I might like that.
Yeah.
Riding a horse around.
It's not so bad.
Because they're sweet.
Probably simpler times.
Maybe.
So what you've just seen a great response from all this. Like have you been pretty happy with your progress, or there things that you would hope to see from it, obviously, but I just think Aaron brought up, we were talking about it beforehand, it's like the importance of a local museum, right?
Yeah.
Like the importance of having people know what happened in the place that they live.
It's a center of community in a lot of ways too. Some things are contemporary centers of community, and then some things are the connection to the past, and they're kind of the center of your historical community. And I think things like libraries, things like museums, even the theater that's there, like these are very important. And it's I don't know. I don't know where to go from there. It's.
Do you feel like that's the case, that they're important things to have in a community?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially in a little town like Silsbee.
Yeah.
Silsbee, who is left in Silsbee, and there's anybody that knows our community very well knows that there's many of us that are come from descendants, many generations of people that have been in Silsbee. It's just
So it's one of the older communities in our area, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
myself, I'm an 8th generation in Hardin County.
Wow, yeah.
And so I've written about that in the Facebook page as well.
Wow.
That my first ancestor settled in 1829 right there near Silsbee. He operated a ferry on the Neches River.
That's older than the first iteration of Beaumont as a community.
Oh, and it was before Texas was Texas.
Yeah.
And so,
Texians.
and there was actually in the runaway scrape of the Texas Revolution, there was quite a lot of activity that happened in the Silsbee area, and that involved that. But I always joke and say I'm so inbred I can barely walk and talk at the same time. But anyway, that's how a lot of us are in Silsbee, is that we are very old. We have old ancestry in the area, and so. I'm beginning to discover that that's very precious to people.
Yeah.
It sort of identifies us in a lot of ways. And people do care. They do care about what's going on or what is being preserved about our community.
Well, it's very common in a lot of other places. Like in Europe, for instance, it's very, very common for you to be born a place, stay a place, be able to trace your roots back. There's 600-year-old bars, all this stuff. In America, it's just not neither one of my parents are even from Texas. I mean, I was born in Silsbee, but mine can't go back as far as yours. Yours, I don't know.
Yeah, a little further.
A little further,
East Texas,
but
so.
it's very uncommon. Like, it's almost an unfathomable amount of time thinking about 1828. Really, really it is. And it is uncommon, so I can see how that would be very valuable. Because I don't even know what that's like,
Well, what's interesting is that if you go back east, and you're right, those communities over there have been around for centuries. I have a cousin, of course, when some of my ancestry came over in 1710 over in North Carolina, I have a cousin that descended from him as well, that her family is still there, and her family has been a member of the same church for 300 years.
That's wild, yeah.
And so, but the deal with Texas is, and I've always joked and said that the people that the pioneers that ended up in Texas were always the sons of the sons of the sons that didn't inherit anything.
Oh, yeah.
Because literally there would be one son, and of course, forget the women. They didn't inherit anything anyway, but there'd be one son that would inherit the family property. And the rest of the sons would have to move on. And where the land was further west, and they just kept coming west and kept coming west. Whereas like with my ancestors, like the Shine ancestors, I've talked about Dr. Shine, who was my great-great-grandfather. He was the first, one of my ancestors in 1710 that stayed in the same area more than one generation because they didn't inherit anything. And so they just had to keep moving. And so, and I think that's kind of what makes Texans who we are, is that we're independent. We're people that come from generations of people that carved a chunk of their land out of a very dangerous place. And
there's panthers.
Those panthers and those Indians.
Yeah.
And many of them, those are some of our ancestors too, as the Indians. But it was not an easy, you are born and you live in the same place and you go to work at all. And so this is sort of generation after generation of the people that kept moving forward ended up in Texas. And that's why we love our guns. And that's why we love, our independence and all of that, because I think that's just who we were bred to be, literally. So, but you're right. And Silsbee is a perfect, example of that.
Yeah, it's a weird town. It makes weird people. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
It makes a special type of, I don't know. It's weird how
I think
even after you leave, we always find each other. Silsbee people. It's true. It's really weird. I can go to any town and I'll find some Silsbee people. It's strange. It's odd. Well, anyway, do you got anything coming up in the future? Do you have what's the next exhibit you're looking forward to? I know that it's closed now, but what's the future hold? Like, when do you have a time frame for when?
You're about to go digging for the Kirby mill.
That's right.
You got a time frame for when maybe we could come check something out?
Yeah, can we come on this adventure into the woods?
You bet you can. You bet you can. And you can do the little in the background and go, now they're cutting through the fur. We can have a
For real, yeah, I'll bring
got
a camera.
machete.
I'll bring a camera. He's got a machete.
Oh
got
man,
machete,
I have
yeah.
been told that that's the thickest. One of the guys, and he's really a woodsman. The man that told me that he found the ruins, he said he's been a woodsman his whole life, and he said that is the thickest woods I have ever been through in my life. He
Thicket.
said yes.
Yeah.
He said he had to crawl through thorns and things. He had to get where the wild animals had run through the little
Oh
holes.
yeah.
And he said it's going to have to be cut with machetes and
Yeah.
to get. That's part of the reason it's never really
Oh,
been
it's in
found.
there.
Yeah.
But as far as what's going on in the future is we're taking the opportunity right now to do some repairs.
Okay. Yeah.
Upstairs, we've got to do some repairs to some of the flooring up there, and we're replacing the flooring.
Wise.
And then, and as I said, in the process of doing that, we have taken all of our archives downstairs and have cataloged them. So we've been doing all of this work. But now we're hoping very soon, in the next few weeks maybe, to have that finished. And then we're going to start putting the museum back together in terms of now that we have inventoried everything. The next step is going to be to go through and decide what we can use in the museum. We have some amazing things. We have a 2 million year old rhinoceros fossil
Oh, that's cool.
that came out of the Neches River. I kid you not.
No, yeah.
And we have a 600-year-old horse fossil, which I assume that's what it is. But it was, I was told that we had a horse fossil and we found some bones, so we're hoping it's not somebody, that just got lost down in there. But
Right.
but anyway, this fossil is really, really important, and a lot of universities had wanted it, but we have it. And so, but what we're going to do is just based on all of this research and all the talks on the Facebook page, we're going to do a series of exhibits. One of them is called Predators of the Big Thicket.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about the panthers. And we're going to really try to get to the bottom of this.
Or
and
jaguars, it seems. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
but here's the deal, is that the old timers, all the old books that you read from the 1800s, and they'll say they killed 14 panthers in one day or something. I
Yeah.
mean, they do. I mean, it's all in the WPA, the Works Progress. You know what WPA articles are?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Well, back during
Like
during the
public works,
Depression,
like they would, yeah.
when Roosevelt, he actually employed writers as a part of the public works to create jobs, to actually go down and interview and do writing projects for certain areas. It's extremely important today.
Cool.
One of the most interesting things he did was he did what's called the slave narratives, where he actually found people that were former slaves that were still living, and they interviewed them
Wow.
about what it was like to be a slave and where they lived and that sort of. They're fascinating. You can find those you can find them online.
The
There's-
WPA?
Yeah,
WPA.
probably in the Library of Congress, right?
Well, you can find the slave narratives online.
Okay,
And
yeah.
there are like over 1,000. And some of them, they're even recorded. You can hear their voices.
Oh, wow.
But everybody's got WPA articles. And Silsbee has a number of them. Everybody does. And so one of the things they talked about in the original WPA article that I read about Silsbee was the panthers.
Yeah.
That they talk about the panthers and they talked about the wolves.
Yeah.
And the red wolves are indigenous to this area.
Were.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are those that say they're still out there, and they have found a hybrid group of red wolf dogs on Galveston Island for sure. That's been certified through, I forget who, but I know it was. It was either it's some university or something. They definitely did the DNA, and there's a hybrid version
Okay,
of
yeah.
the red wolves that are still here. But and then there's also a lot of people that
The
have
black bears, too. There used to be a big black bear area. Yeah.
Yes, and they were hunted to extinction. But there are those that say that there's still some out there, as well as pumas,
Yeah.
mountain lions,
Yeah.
cougars. I know people that have personally seen them, have game cams of them, and so we have these predators that are living in the thickest part of the big thicket that are just not seen, and there's all this controversy about that, and so you've got the people that have seen them, but every time they see one, I think they generally just stand there with their mouth hanging open,
Yeah.
and nobody manages to take a picture.
You kind of
Yeah,
just enjoy
yeah.
the moment,
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've heard
Or freak out.
Or freak out.
Or freak out.
yes, exactly, and so, but hopefully we're going to maybe we can get that pelt, and we've got some pictures.
That'd be really cool, yeah.
I've posted some pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and people have gone on and go, "That's not a panther, that's a cat, or that's a, whatever." And I don't know, but so we're going to try to figure that out. then the other thing that goes along with that is I'm going to do a smaller exhibit of just Pioneer guns. I'm going to pull in some, they had to have these to protect themselves from the elements. So we've got some old rifles.
Some repeaters and
Yes, an old Winchester, and we've got a from the 1800s, and we've got a pistol, and we've got supposedly this is not something to be particularly proud of, but it is what it is. But the gun that supposedly killed the last bear in Hardin County.
Oh wow!
So we're going to do that and have that along with the predator exhibit, and then we're going to do.
That's okay. Yeah.
And one we really haven't talked about today is the medical exhibit. That's going to be really interesting.
Dental work, man.
As a matter of fact, you can't see it on a podcast, but I can even show you something that I've got in my purse that is what's called a madstone. So, did you see in, what's the guy's name that did the movie that the sorcerer, the young guy? It's just like a stupid thing, but I've never watched that movie. It's
like Harry Potter.
Thank you,
Oh, Harry Potter. Yeah.
You know when they had the stone and he swallowed it or something? Do you remember in that part?
Vaguely, yeah.
Well, that was what they called a bezoar phone, a stone. But the truth is that back in from all the way the time of Cleopatra until fairly modern history, they used these stones to cure the bites of snakes or mad dogs.
Well, people still think rocks can heal you, so that's
This isn't a rock.
Yeah.
It is a little sort of an organ, not an organ, but like a lymph or something that comes out of the stomach of a deer.
Oh, okay.
And what happens is it's like a pearl is formed around an irritant.
Well, you say you have this on you right now?
I do. Where is my purse?
Let me see this thing.
It's like a gallstone type of thing. Yeah.
Well, possibly, but it's
It's a deer pearl.
Yeah.
But this particular
Land pearl.
madstone that I have is belonged to my great-great-grandfather, and I have his diaries from from the early days when they talk about applying this madstone to Mrs. So-and-so was treated for dog
it's a really
bite.
cool name.
And what the deal was for mad dog.
Oh, wow.
But what they did was, here it is. What they did was they would soak it in milk. And this is the original one. I'm not kidding you. And this one, if a snake were to come in and bite you right now, this would work. You want to know why?
Why?
Because it has never been sold. It has never been used for money, and it's still passed down in the family.
It's kind of soft, huh? Like it's got a little give to it, maybe?
But what you do is you soak it in milk, and then you apply it supposedly to the bite, and it adheres, it sticks.
Huh.
And it will stick for, according to the diaries, for like 4 hours, and then it would fall off. And then you would put it back in the milk.
There you go.
And I've been told, I mean, this is what the theory
Then it
is.
would release it into the milk?
The milk would become green, and that you would keep applying it until it would no longer stick. But this is the madstone that belonged to my great-great-grandfather in the 1800s.
You're still here, so that means it must have worked.
Well, they didn't use it on me.
No, but I mean, it comes from your family, so they didn't die.
You might need to keep that in case whenever you go digging for the Kirby mill and there's snakes back there.
Well, no kidding. No kidding. But we'll have to take milk with us.
Yeah. I mean, there's copperheads out there, so those are pretty bad. Yeah.
And hopefully not any mad dogs. But,
yeah.
But I don't know whether this works, but I just know they use this for, it seems kind of wild to me, but
it does, yeah.
They used it 1,000 years.
Yeah, that's weird.
Why would they use them 1,000 years if they didn't work?
I mean, there's a lot to be said about old folk healing.
Yeah, who knows?
And these were very rare. This is extremely rare.
Mm.
And the fact that it has never been out of my family, I mean, the rules, as I said, were in order for a madstone to work, it has to have never been purchased. It has to have money has never been taken for the use of it. And it has to be passed down through the family. So the fact that it is still in my hands, and I didn't buy it.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
So I think that's just fascinating. And who knows? Who knows? But when you look at a cross-section of it, it's like a cork. And so I guess...
Yeah, it feels like a cork.
Kind of got a sponginess to it, yeah.
Kind of feels like a dehydrated lima bean or something like
it does.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
But one could make the argument that perhaps it can absorb.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
And maybe with milk too. You know, milk is sugars and fats and stuff. It might bind to the toxins. Just possible.
It's just fascinating, is all I know. But we're going to do a medical exhibit because we have some horrible looking saws
Some
and
implements.
things.
Yeah.
From local. It was important to me that they were local doctors. From the one of them's my great grandfather who practiced from 1884 to 1916, and so I have his doctor bag that's filled with hand rolled pills from the big thicket, and that's the truth. And we have all sorts of things. We have I've collected some like poultice recipes and things, and all sorts of different treatments, some surgical
If you dig
instruments.
too deep into that stuff, you might find some stuff that's illegal now.
Oh, listen.
I'm sure.
Yes, I have no doubt I could probably be arrested
Yeah.
for the stuff that's in there. But
Yeah, use a little cocaine wine to get the ghost out of your blood.
but anyway, so this is the medical exhibit is going to be fascinating.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And I've got a number of doctors that from the area that were from, we're trying to say between the 1880, 1920, 1930 in that area, it was really foreign, really different, but it happened right here. You know, like this Madstone. I mean, everybody this is nuts. Or is it? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know? But and then we're also doing the Kirby exhibit, as I said. We're going to be doing that. But I hope we're probably going to open the museum before we do that investigation. So that may be a little later coming. And then there's the Ice House Museum, which I told you about with the Ice Museum. We call it the Iceman Cometh. It's where the ice wagon in the 1920s, it's already built.
Oh, yeah.
That exhibit is already there.
Looks good.
And so we're doing, have I left something out? I'm trying to remember. I'm also doing very, very soon, I'm doing an online exhibit of a lady that's just a master quilter.
Oh, really? Wow. That's
We got a lot of really good quilt makers around here.
Yeah.
We do.
We have the big quilt thing, the convention down.
the
Yes.
Quilters
Every year.
Convention. Yeah.
Well, she's very involved in all that, and she's local.
Yeah.
And her name is Melinda
We'll
Stanton.
have to get in touch with her. We want to talk to her.
Oh, yeah, she would love to do that. But so we took her quilts and we took them last weekend actually to my house because it's a 1922 house. And we took it to the front porch of another old house, and we had a professional photographer do this photography. And so we're doing this, I hope will be beautiful, online exhibit because
awesome.
everything's got to go online these days,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I get the photography back, we're going to start posting that online and make an area in our website about it and hopefully begin to create other online exhibits that people can see. But we also need them to come in.
Yeah.
Because a museum is a museum and it's also a business. I mean, we got to pay our bills just like everybody else.
That's right.
So
Whenever y'all do open, I guess hours will be just look at your Facebook and see what you're posting about.
yes,
Yeah.
we're going to have to figure the whole COVID thing. I noticed that some of the museums are opening several days a week now, and we can do that as soon as we get our building put back together again from the repairs that we've done. Then we can start opening limited hours and where people come in and they go through all the safety guidelines for COVID. We'll take the temperature at the door with one of those little things that you shoot your forehead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then hopefully, you know, we can figure out the safest way to do
Maybe
that.
get some school kids back in there and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also have some enrichment activities that are online. We're working very hard to do a lot of stuff online.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if anybody wants to reach you, they can find you at they message the Ice House Museum on Facebook. They're going to get a hold of you.
they can do that, or they can call 409-385-2444. Or they can also email me at, probably the easiest one to remember is icehousemuseum@att.net.
Okay.
And
cool.
so they can reach me, and we have lots of interesting things happening.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate you staying adaptable in these weird times and using your time wisely. And we want to see what happens from that investigation.
Well,
you know,
thank
so
you
really
for
excited.
having us, and we're looking forward to to opening again and inviting everyone to come out and check it out.
Awesome. We'll be there. So.
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that was it. That was the episode. Thank you guys for coming along. Also, a special thanks to Susan. You can check out hers and the Ice House Museum's Instagram. It's at Ice House Museum.
And then find them on Facebook.
Yeah, they're all of the things that she's finding out about the sawmill that we were talking about. She's gonna release those on Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. So make sure you keep up to date with her. Also, in line with talking about museums, we want to give a special little shout out to the Museum of the Gulf Coast. They are doing something, community-oriented thing. They're having a blood drive, guys. Blood is really low in our area right now. We are between hurricanes. Things are really bad. And if you have a little extra blood in your blood sac that is your body, you might want to think about just driving on down.
Check it out. This is what you get. If you donate blood, you get free Raising Cane's gift card that's good for a box combo.
Dang, son.
You get a free t-shirt.
What?
Free interest to the museum plus a friend.
You get to go to the museum afterwards?
And there's going to be presentations by the Snake Education Experience, which I don't know.
And there's
going to
be a herpetologist there too.
They need your blood, guys, and they're going to give you free canes.
Free
brand.
canes, free interest to the museum. Look, just come on down. Just go on down to the Museum of the Gulf Coast. Give them a little bit of your blood. You know
9
what I mean?
a.m. to 1 p.m.
People need it. What day is that going to be on? Oh, yeah, on Saturday, October 3rd. That's a popular day. Go check them out.
So go give blood in the morning.
Give a little bit.
Come help us clean up the creek.
It's not going to be great.
And then go to the art museum and have a beer.
Yeah, but don't do that. Just pick one or the other. It'd be fine if
it's fun. All right, now we get to do a special shout out about our patrons. We're going to holler at the people that make things better for our community over here by giving us their money. And they're a fine bunch. It's Jordan Stringer.
Very fine bunch.
Brian Costino. Doug Waldrop. Fine. Michael Saw.
Very fine folks here.
Ben McClellan. Randy Edwards, Allie Gillette, Allison Pierce, Lauren Bibu,
so fine.
Wes
fine folks.
Harden, Jacqueline Stockdale, Damon Rammond, Hannah McMahon, and our newest patron, Nicole Tony. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/A2ZBNT.
That's right, and make sure you check us out next time where we're going to have on Stephen Oak. That's a pseudonym. You actually probably know him. He is the author.
Return guest, Stephen Oak.
Yeah. He wrote a book. It's called Jet Landry, The Fuse. It was really fun having him back on, and we just went all over the place. It's great.
This was a creative project that was spurned on by COVID, basically.
Really? Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
As he didn't have the time. He'd been working on it for a few years, and he didn't finally have the time to do it, or the inspiration, I guess, until COVID happened.
Yeah.
He was stuck at home, Zoom telecommuting for work. And great dude, and I think it's a great book. And come back and check it out and find out more about it.
That's right.
And then another week after that, we got another guest, and we got exciting.
And you know what? We're
things
just gonna
in the
keep
works.
going, guys.
We got so many exciting
us.
things in the works.
You can't stop us.
Yeah.
I know that you want to. They said
Some people would
that
want
we
to
would
stop
never
us.
come back.
Yeah.
But we have,
Yeah.
and we're gonna come back again.
Nobody worried about us coming back.
I
by the
know,
way.
yeah,
They we took like a 2-month hiatus.
That's my,
and nobody
delusions
said
of grandeur.
anything. Nobody
know?
said a thing.
No.
You think? Nah, it doesn't matter. Y'all still love
Our
us.
patrons said something.
They did.
They know. Anyway, that's been it. Come on back now. You hear?